Hi there, I'm John.
I'm Lou.
And we're going to talk today about things I wish I'd known at the beginning of my relationship. Things that, maybe I saw but ignored, and that might have made a difference. So I'm just going to ask Lou, was there anything, were there signs that what was to come that you might not have noticed, or are there things that, having worked in this field for a wee while, that you think, I wish I'd known that back then?
Well, I think that what I would say to people falling in love at the beginning of a relationship, what I wish I'd known, or what I wish I'd done, is the signs were there. But for a start, my husband was a binge drinker, so the signs were there, but what he tended to do is go out with his mates when I wasn't around, so he kind of kept it from me. And then I gradually became aware that there was something going on. Now, this doesn't have to be a particularly long video, but I would say to people, there are two powers in love. When you first fall in love, it's a time when you feel a passion so deeply that modifications can happen, and you get the thing like, you'll go off to football, which you normally would hate, and enjoy a match because you happen to be doing someone who loves you, and he might come to an art collection, which is, and all this kind of thing, because you love. Now, what I chose to do in the situation when I saw the drinking, because I loved him, I wanted to love him unconditionally, and so I wanted him to feel accepted, and somehow highlighting the fact that he drank too much, for me, would have been inferior in terms of loving well. So, and I think this happens in the passionate part of getting together, is we minimise some of the stuff that's going on right in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
And I think that I wish there were more people around who actually home in on that bit and sift through what's going. Now, of course, people improve, but one of the dangerous things about people drinking too much, and you said this in a couple of videos earlier in this series, is generally they get worse and get worse, particularly if it's beyond the student years.
Yeah, Alcoholics Anonymous talk about a progression, and to be honest, there is some truth in that. People don't generally get better. As I said before, it's not like having the cold that runs its course. You feel fairly horrible, then it goes away again, and you're okay. It doesn't do it. It doesn't happen like that. So if the signs are on the wall, then it's probably not going to get much better at that point.
And I really, really, I wish someone had sat me down, because I'm pretty sure I would have put boundaries around the relationship.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have had a family at that point, and the marriage might not even have gone on. But I wish I'd actually, instead of using my love to kind of push me into denial, I'd appealed to that love in him and just said, look, if we're going to have a life together. And at that point too, they love you so much they want you to commit. So there's a huge amount of power inside where you can appeal to someone, not helplessly and hopelessly as you often do when you go on in these situations, but actually, oh my God, I love this person, I must look at my behaviour. Now, if you modify the behaviour and it crops up later in life, you have set a powerful boundary that you can always go back to.
I think there's a lot of truth in that. When I got married and sort of continued to drink and take drugs and do all of that, and my wife remonstrated with me, and I said, well, you knew what it was like. Whereas, what I find myself now in the counselling room talking to people about is saying, if you've got doubts and you're not actually committed yet, use this time, because you have leverage that you will never have again.
Absolutely. And if you're out the house as well, if you come out of the house and you separate and your partner really loves you, don't squander that leverage. Absolutely. It is so, so important. Yeah. So passion, first falling in love, is a leverage not to be used manipulatively. I'm not talking about manipulation, I'm talking about protection.
No, not at all.
And if you're listening to this video wondering whether you should get married or move in, which again is a very big step, and you know that there is a drinking or a getting stoned problem. And the problem, by what I mean, is that the normal him or her, when it gets under the influence of getting stoned or getting drunk, then begins to lie, doesn't, changes the person you've fallen in love with. Yeah. Please see the signs. Because you could be signing up to a great deal of misery for a long, long time. Yeah. And the sad truth is, often it doesn't get better, it gets worse. Would you say that in terms of...
Very often it does. I mean, it's not 100%, nothing is. But, often it does. And I think, we're quite used to these days seeing, sort of medical warnings, test for cancer, test for this, test for that, make sure, these are the signs. If you see this, go and see your doctor. This is the same, If you see these sort of issues, then try and do something about it. The earlier, the more likely it is to stop or change.
And you're living with a problem drinker. If in every other situation they're reliable, loving and kind, and when they start drinking, they start behaving in a different way, you've got a problem drinker on your hands, and you're going to have a problem on your hands. And I'm saying it strongly because I might save some people from some real misery. And I'm not saying eject the relationship. I'm saying put a boundary down, make it clear what you will or won't put up with. Do a trial to make sure that there's going to be, compliance to that. And worst come to the worst, you can always go back to that and say, but I said. And there's a boundary, a precept really, or a policy that you're setting.
To some extent. I mean, to use another analogy, if you're moving into a house and the house isn't actually, it doesn't have the roof fixed yet and they've got leaks, and very often what happens is that people end up with buckets all over the house, and it becomes almost like a norm living that way. The best thing to do is get the roof fixed before you move in. And this is the same thing, Get the boundaries set, get your agreements in place. They may or may not keep them, but at least this is when you've got the best opportunity to do that. We're not telling you, don't get married, you throw them out. We're not going down that route.
Absolutely
what we're saying is be aware, and give it plenty of thought and try and do something about it. The earlier you can catch it, then the easier it is, because the more entrenched the alcohol gets, the more difficult it is to change it.
And if he loves you, he'll really do it. If he doesn't, then probably he's already at the point where he loves his drinking more than he really, deep down, loves you.
Yeah.
That's a sad thing to say. He probably does love you. Yeah. But once the love for the drink becomes that strong, you're going into your marriage with a mistress.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't do that under any situation, so don't do it with the drink.
No, that's probably an even better analogy.
And this might be a bit crazy because, in fact, we got a bit of slack for it, didn't we? Flack for it the other day. Because we're here for the people that want to make the marriage work if they possibly can and hold marriages together. And of course we are so aware of the differences and things, but this is a chance where you can come into it with reality and understanding.
Yeah, one of the hardliners gave us a kicking in the comments section.
They did a bit, yes.
Fine, that's their opinion, and that's fine. That's they've got every right to sort of express that opinion. But you could hear it dripping with bitterness. And that's people have got choices. Have choices. Yeah. Anyway, on that note.
Yes.
Shall we?
Yeah, and yes, because I'm now going to have the same question asked
Yes.
from when I was in the middle of the marriage.
Okay.
So come back.
Come back
So
to the
I unfortunately didn't listen to myself or listen to the signs,
Yes.
and so I ended up in a marriage with a problem drinker. So you're gonna ask me the same question.
I am.
From my, say, 40-year-old self, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. So come on, join us. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.